After a year-long wait, the second season of Devil May Cry finally hit Netflix. And to be honest, the first season was amazing. The second season seems like a delectable improvement over what we've already loved. Even if the Netflix adaptation took liberties with the numerous changes it made from the source material, you cannot disagree how beautifully the long-running video game franchise translated to a high-octane animated series on screen. From the intense action sequences to the arcane supernatural lore, and of course the absolutely iconic soundtrack to go with it, the devil is truly in the details. Not just that, we get the most awaited Dante and Virgil face-off alongside plenty of crazy yet magnificent villains doing their own thing. Having said that, without wasting another moment, let's discuss how the ending of Devil May Cry Season 2's 8-episode run plays out. So the newest season picked up the story a few years after Lady Mary Arkham betrayed Dante and turned him over to Darkcom so they could keep him in a cryostasis pod and use his blood to turn him into a frozen slave for the government. But with the US government colonizing Makai, King Mundus sends Dante's long-lost brother Virgil to put an end to humanity's nuisance on his realm, which led Vice President William Baines and the owner of the Ouroboros Corporation, Arius von Ehrenberg, to wake up Dante from his enforced slumber. Now, throughout the 8 episodes, Dante and Virgil somewhat settle their differences after realizing it was Mundus who had their mother killed. But before that, they had the god of chaos to deal with. We see the Sons of Sparta strategize to pit one villain against the other so they could take out Argosax from the playing field and then deal with Mundus themselves. However, that's not all, because Season 2 of Devil May Cry ended with Dante, Virgil, and Lady having to deal with Arius, the Great Sorcerer, too. For 672 years, Arius has been trying to free Argosax, and for that, he needed the Arcana, which is an insanely powerful collection of demonic artifacts that would allow him to merge with the god of chaos. Even though Dante, Virgil, and Lady tried everything to stop the ritual, they failed, and during the hybrid solar eclipse, Arius successfully became the vessel for Argosax. Right after he transformed, Argosax began draining the life force from every human in sight to gain enough power to wipe out both the Makai and Earth and create a new empire from the destruction, which only thrives in the concept of chaos and evolution. But after realizing how they were running out of options, Dante came up with a desperate last-minute plan. After he asked Virgil if Mundus was strong enough to defeat Argosax, Virgil confirmed that he was. So Dante told Lady to use Sparta's sword to open a rift to Makai so they could force Argosax back into hell, seal the rift, and let Mundus deal with him there. At first, the plan actually worked, as Dante and Virgil managed to push Argosax through the portal into Makai. Meanwhile, before the final showdown between Mundus and Argosax began, the series took a moment to revisit Makai, where one of Mundus' loyal demons informed the King of Hell how Virgil exposed his identity to the world after revealing himself on live television. Beowulf even brought up White Rabbit, the main villain from Season 1, whose goal had been to tear open the barrier between Earth and Makai in order to free those who were being oppressed. White Rabbit believed both realms were ruled by corrupt powers, and he wanted revenge against Darkcom while also freeing the oppressed lesser demons in Makai, just wanting to live a better life. What made the situation worse was the fact that Virgil had actually helped White Rabbit create the rift between the two worlds that set the entire plan into motion. But since Dante and Lady eventually stopped them and killed White Rabbit, Mundus didn't seem too concerned about Virgil's past involvement, as he believed Virgil was still useful. However, Beowulf refused to let the issue go and simply kept warning Mundus that Virgil could easily betray him as well. But the King of Hell did not take kindly to being questioned, and he immediately banished Beowulf from his court, reminding him that a servant should never doubt his master's decisions. Mundus and his followers simply watched as Dante, Virgil, and Argosax came crashing through the portal, thus setting the stage for a massive battle to come. The moment Dante, Virgil, and Argosax arrived in Makai, Mundus wasted no time in attacking the god of chaos. After a brief battle, he absolutely annihilated both Argosax and Arius in one brutal move by ripping out the sorcerer's body from the god of chaos's current form and weakening. But even at the very end, Arius had absolutely no regret for what he had done, as he did not mind spending 28 lifetimes bringing back a god of life if it meant that he could serve as that god's vessel for even a few minutes. It's a pretty tragic mindset when you think about it, because Arius had immense power, wealth, and the rare ability to reincarnate every time he died. He could have used all of that to genuinely leave behind some meaningful legacy. Instead, he devoted every lifetime to serving Argosax's destructive ambitions. In the end, he sacrificed everything for a cause that discarded him the moment he was no longer useful. But that's exactly what makes his story arc work out, because without his complicated relationship with Argosax, Arius would not have gotten very far. Having said that, I'm probably not the only one wondering whether Arius and Argosax are truly dead. From what the show seemed to imply, Argosax's soul was tied to the Arcana, and as long as those artifacts existed, especially the one resembling the rod of Asclepius, Arius could continue reincarnating while Argosax's essence survived alongside him. That's why the whole scene about Mundus defeating Argosax seemed a little ambiguous. The attack was so overwhelming that it almost looked like he destroyed the Arcana itself in the process. If that's what actually happened, then both Arius and Argosax are likely gone for good. But if even part of the Arcana survived, this means there's still a slight chance that both of them are alive. And honestly, this is Devil May Cry we're talking about. Characters tied to demonic relics and resurrection mechanics rarely stay dead forever. So if Season 3 wants to revisit Arius and Argosax, it seems like the show's already left the door open for them to return. Now, with Arius and Argosax gone, Dante and Virgil immediately went back to sealing the rift again. Their plan was to basically remove the amulet from Sparta's sword before Mundus got any ideas about invading Earth. But before they could do that, the demonic forces of the King of Hell surrounded the Sons of Sparta, bringing the tension in Makai to a boiling point. That confrontation finally gave Virgil the chance to ask Mundus directly about Eva's death. However, instead of denying it, Mundus openly admitted that he manipulated the truth in order to shape Virgil into his ultimate warrior. Hearing that completely changed things for Dante, because after he realized how badly Virgil had been used as a pawn since his childhood, he told his brother that he wanted to stand beside him and help him get revenge. Surprisingly, the king refused. Rather than starting another fight, he revealed that he actually wanted the Sons of Sparta to join him, as he aimed to unite their strength and expand the horizons of Makai even further. Of course, neither Dante nor Virgil was willing to go along with that, as they had no interest in letting Mundus rule over both Makai and Earth. But then Mundus dropped another unexpected revelation. Despite everything that had happened, he claimed he held no hatred towards Sparta at all. Mundus went on to explain that Sparta never betrayed him out of hatred. According to him, Sparta was a righteous warrior who could no longer tolerate how power-hungry Mundus had become. In Sparta's eyes, Mundus was just turning into another Argosax, and because Mundus was too blinded by his own ambition to realize it, Sparta decided to force him to confront what he'd become. Rather than killing him outright, Sparta sealed away Mundus in Makai and took away his ability to open a path to Earth. It almost felt like Mundus believed admitting this truth would somehow convince Dante and Virgil to understand the situation from his perspective. But when that tactic also failed, he started tearing down their connection to Eva. Mundus dismissed her importance entirely and even justified her murder as a necessary step he had to take in order to destroy the human side of Dante and Virgil so they could fully embrace their Machian heritage. Of course, that strategy backfired horribly, because instead of turning the brothers against their humanity, it pushed them into open rebellion. In an iconic sequence, Dante and Virgil immediately start cutting through Mundus's forces together, and not even Beowulf could withstand the duo. However, then came the biggest surprise of the finale. Once the battle was over, it was time to close the rift and return to Earth. Virgil chose to remain behind in Makai instead of leaving with Dante. At first, it almost seemed like he was siding with Mundus, but that wasn't his reason at all. From the way the finale framed it, Virgil genuinely saw Makai as his true home, and he believed Mundus had no right to rule over it anymore. In Virgil's mind, staying behind in Makai was the only way he could gain enough power to eventually defeat Mundus. Even if Dante kept asking him to retreat back to Earth and later came back to face Mundus on their own terms, Virgil believed that if he returned with his brother, the human side of himself, the part Mundus always mocked as sapient weakness, would hold him back from becoming ruthless enough to finish the job. Even if he agreed that Mundus could not be allowed to invade Earth, he knew that Dante would never leave Makai without his brother. So Virgil had no choice but to impale Dante with his sword and toss him through the portal along with both pieces of Sparta's amulet. We later see a bloody, battered Dante wake up in the decimated ruins of the city. At first, he understandably saw Virgil's decision as another betrayal, but the more you think about it, the clearer it becomes that Virgil was actually making a sacrifice. He was choosing to give up whatever humanity he still had in order to destroy the monster responsible for Eva's death. And when Virgil threw Dante back to Earth along with the amulet, sealing the rift in the process, Dante probably realized just how serious that choice really was. Interestingly, we never find out the outcome of Virgil's confrontation with Mundus, which of course feels very intentional, as it seems like Devil May Cry is saving the real battle for Season 3. As for Virgil, claiming that Makai would invade Earth only under his rule, that honestly sounded more like him psyching himself up for the fight rather than revealing his true intentions. Given how the story goes in the overarching franchise, deep down, I don't think he wants to conquer Earth at all. What makes the whole situation even more fascinating is just how closely Virgil's path mirrors Sparta's. Both of them ultimately turned against Mundus, but they chose completely different approaches as Sparta abandoned Mackay and protected Earth, while Virgil stayed behind Mackay to fight from within. That could not have been an easy decision because Virgil never really felt a sense of belonging somewhere since childhood. He was never demon enough for Mackay, nor could he ever be human enough for Earth after spending decades being forged into a warrior by the fires of hell. I guess that's something he has to figure out in the future. But honestly, no matter how that battle ended, there's a strange sense in which Mundus still wins. If Mundus defeats Virgil, then he keeps his throne and proves his superiority outright. But if Virgil defeats Mundus, then it means Mundus successfully shaped Virgil into someone powerful enough to overthrow him. In a twisted sense, it would actually make Virgil the final product of Mundus's influence, which is almost a spiritual victory for Mundus, even in defeat. Now, the final big reveal of the season actually turns out to be about Lady Arkham. Throughout Season 2 of Devil May Cry, both Baines and Arius kept hinting that there was a spy operating deep inside Mundus's court. Having said that, right before Dante entered the rift to Mackay, he told Lady to meet him later at a diner. But when Dante finally returned from Mackay, Lady was unconscious and nowhere near their rendezvous point. After she woke up, Lady chose to follow the trail leading to her father instead of heading straight to Dante. During her investigation, she also recovered the laptop Baines had previously used to show her the footage of Arius meeting with John Arkham. This time, though, she watched an extended version of the recording, and that's when the real twist is revealed. As it turns out, John was not only alive, but he had also transformed into the demon. And not just any demon. John is actually the court jester in Mundus's court, making him privy to all the vital information of Mackay. For longtime fans of the games, that reveal is probably not too shocking, since Jester's true identity is already established in the source material. But within the context of the show, it completely reframes everything surrounding Lady's past and sets up major storylines going into Season 3. For some reason, Jester, or rather John Arkham, seemed to know that Lady was coming for him. And, unsurprisingly, he was right. Even with the entire United States under curfew because of the recent demon outbreaks, Lady still set out on a mission to track down her father. Of course, her motivation was pretty clear that she wanted to seek revenge. Lady wanted justice for her mother, Kalina Ann. And after learning that John was still alive and secretly operating as Jester, there's no way she was going to let him disappear again. Even if it comes at the cost of her relationship with Dante, she had to take down the man who haunted her entire life. The big question, though, is how she actually is supposed to reach him now that the rift between Earth and Mackay has been sealed. One of the few known ways to travel between the two realms is definitely through Virgil's sword, Yamato, but as you know, that's currently stuck in Mackay alongside Virgil himself. Not just that, we know that Arius' cybernetic left arm was another tool capable of sending people between Earth and Mackay, but that's currently stuck in Mackay too. Even if Dante still has both halves of the amulet, without Sparta's sword, which is now with Virgil, the amulet alone is not enough to reopen the gateway. That's what makes the item Lady received from Nell Goldstein so interesting. The finale never explains exactly what it is, which feels very intentional. There's a good chance it could end up being her key to reaching Mackay in Season 3. Otherwise, the show wouldn't have drawn attention to it so late in the story. Unless Lady discovers another method to cross over, Season 3 is probably going to revolve around her figuring out how to reopen a path between the worlds, all while hunting down her father. But again, Jester clearly has the ability to move between the realms somehow, which raises an even simpler possibility that maybe Lady doesn't need to find a way into Mackay at all. Maybe she just needs to force Jester to come back to Earth and confront him here. Considering her entire journey is driven by revenge for Kalina Ann's death, it feels like a very plausible direction for the story to take. I'm also very excited to see how John Arkham managed to climb all the way into Mundus's inner circle in the first place. We know how he became Jester, but the show hasn't explained how he gained the power to travel between the realms or earn a place in Mundus's court. Apart from Lady's conflict with Jester and Virgil's conflict with Mundus and Mackay, Dante will probably try his best to track down the two most important people in his life. Honestly, a Mackay showdown with Jester and Mundus as the main big bads of Season 3 is pretty much writing itself at this point. However, I wonder if we'll ever see Sparta make a comeback. What are your theories? Let us know about it in the comments below. Stay safe and have a great day. And as always, stay marvelous.